And sports too. Sports was a great way to do that, where everybody's angling and striving and networking behind the scenes. And you're a kid, you don't know how important people's parents can be and who they are and all their resumes and all the things that dictate your access and opportunities in life. But when you're out there playing sports, it's just you against the other guys.
That was Alex Maxa, the man behind the wheel at Gillibus. I'm Jeff, and this is Storied San Francisco. Gillibus is a bus rental service located here in San Francisco. Think of it as a party bus, but for grown-ups. It's every bit as much culture as it is a good time getting you from point A to point B. In this episode, Alex shares his life story. It's a long, layered one that includes two journalist parents, one of whom called Larry Flint a friend. Please listen all the way through on this one to hear a special message from our friends at KQED's podcast Right Nowish. Here's Alex.
So the buses have been in and out of Vernal Heights for, a decade. And when they're not on Treasure Island, sleeping. And yeah, I'm a guy who came to San Francisco with just kind of an open mind. And a good amount.
That's a good way to come here.
Yeah. No
agenda.
Agenda or plan besides, hey, this is for the first time in my life, which is not true, but I felt that I was going and doing me. Nobody suggested I go to San Francisco. Nobody wrote me a letter of recommendation. I didn't apply to anything. I did have a job lined up, but it was in Napa. Mm-hmm. And I had a place lined up, but it was in Vallejo, and I didn't get it till I was halfway across the country. And somebody else got it for me. So my roommate.
It wasn't the book of your life, in other words. And you're like, okay, chapter 3.
I think in a way it was, though, because I came out to San Francisco in the summer of 92 and the summer of 93 with my dad and my sister. While she was looking at colleges up and down the coast, and she couldn't make her mind up, so we went back, another summer, and I loved it.
Mm-hmm. But we'll talk about that for sure. First times.
Yeah, I loved it, and I was born in '83, so I was 10 years old, and we had some good family friends in SF. I had literally a San Francisco mom. She didn't have any kids. She and her husband didn't have any kids, and they had a big place, and she just took care of us when we were in town.
Right.
So I fell in love with it. The issue, I love California, but we went from San Diego up to SF the first time and just kept getting better. Mm-hmm. And with San Francisco, I went back to the East Coast. I was profoundly affected by the idea of the big one hitting. I said, what's the catch? Yeah. This is all too good to be true.
Yeah.
The cars are cool as hell. They're palm trees. The music on the radio is better.
When's the other shoe gonna fall?
Yeah, life in the back seat of like the Chevy Malibu rental car was just like phenomenal itself, better than at home. So, it's just incredibly lame. But I got really into. I was always a mega jock, but by the time the mid '90s came around, I was obsessed with lacrosse and determined to use that to get into college because I didn't like trying in my schoolwork as much. Mm-hmm. So that was going to be my ticket, and that really, really condenses your options for college.
Yeah,
and I convinced myself that this is really what I wanted to do, and I worked really hard at it, and so by the time college was over, I was like, what can I live? Can I do what I want to do now? Because the sports thing by the end of high school was like over in my heart,
Right.
But by then I kind of made up my mind. I was on the East Coast for 4 years. And so when it came to San Francisco, it was a little bit, it's a little bit of like I see it in sort of cinematic narrative light of, getting back together with something, getting back on track.
Yeah.
I was sitting in a basement, in Ithaca, New York, in my bathrobe alone in like March or April, still no idea what I'm going to do with my life when I graduate in a few weeks. And my best friend growing up, my oldest friend, since I was 2 in DC, was already living in SF. And I was like, I called him he's like, yeah, you absolutely need to be here. I know you very well. You know, we talk all the time, but with a group on email. So getting together one-on-one was a little bit different. It wasn't like we were catching up,
Right.
but it was like solicitation, and he was like, come on out.
Two
So
things quickly. Ithaca is gorgeous. And did you go to Cornell then?
yeah, I went to hotel school. I was
Oh shit.
very, I wasn't, college to me was not the most, I quickly became anxious about the fact that this seemed to be not the most productive use of my time vis-a-vis preparing for my life, my next life.
Right.
What was the point of this? So I got real specific and, focused and vocational there.
Okay.
But everybody else is, for the most part, has a family business. There's like 800 kids in that program. A lot of them are, their parents have hospitality companies that they're going to go into, and mine didn't. So it really didn't, make it that much. It wasn't a magic bullet, right?
Yeah.
So I didn't leave.
But that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll get to it later, but learning that about you makes a lot of sense.
It does. I mean,
I will say personally, you take care of your people.
I try. I try. I spend all my time, I do a lot of the work with the reservations and maintaining the vehicles, making sure they're good and fun and safe. I would spend all my time doing the hospitality side of it, little perks, making more high touch things to really like not improve the experience, but enhance it.
Mm-hmm.
And bring more fun and value, whatever you want to call to it. More personal touch.
I like enhance better than elevate, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Everything's elevated.
Yeah, it's everyone else. It's everyone else. Everyone on there is pretty elevated, without my help. So
exactly.
But I think for me it was like, and I think I wrote this in my like college essay. My transition from sports to hospitality was very smooth, right? I love the team aspect. I love that kind of environment. It was a restaurant, is what did it, and the hierarchy there, and yeah, I just wasn't the kind of person who was gonna in some kind of like coat and tie email related job. Like it just didn't make sense. I didn't understand how grown-ups made money like that, so, and I did not, I ran out of patience at school, so there was no way I was going to go to law school or anything like that to like just I tried that was the whole idea of picking a program in undergrad, is to like figure it out. So yeah, I left there with like, in the recession, and expectations were low, but for me, I guess, and I had a lot of, there was a lot of coping because of that. Well, whatever, but I was ready to go. I didn't like that excuse. And I really feel for the younger generation right now. I'm very angry on their behalf because whether you're a school kid right now or a right out of college kid, I think that you're getting shafted and you don't have much of a say in it.
For sure. I do think they're going to figure it out, and I think it's going to make them better people. Maybe that's just the optimist in me, but I'm like, this level of adversity that these young folks are dealing with, and I'm already seeing it.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I'm not optimistic, but that's maybe that's maybe because of I'm in Washington D.C. right now, and there's to me when I'm here, because I've grown up here, I've spent so much time. It's the kind of place where we all just want to speak to the manager, right? We're all just yelling into the void, the TL, the timeline, or whatever. And here I am at the customer complaint center, and like I'm not any more powerful than I was if I'm sitting anywhere else. And it just makes me, as someone who grew up here and really had his faith in the adults in the institutions, and now seeing just how like nakedly how the leadership, there's no there.
It's breaking down.
It's really breaking down. Yeah. And I see that. You can go to any state anywhere and kind of see that, and then you come here and you have people who are just pretending like, you know, it's like it's Hollywood for ugly people, and these people are here. These people come to DC and they're ready to do their thing, and it's great because they're here and they're climbing the ladder, and the rest of us are out there being like, hi, you know, like, I'm glad you guys are enjoying yourself. So I'm finally transitioned to this from inside the Beltway guy who doesn't understand how the rest of the country works and feels, to the rest of the country who's, you know, like banging on the outside the Beltway, banging on the inside of the Beltway. So
totally, it's what you were talking about. It's Nancy Pelosi and a dashiki. Okay, wait, sorry. This is all great stuff. Can we rewind though?
Yeah.
Okay, let's start. And like I said, this part is totally up to you as far as who and how many generations back you wanna go. But tell me about your ancestors and how they ended up in DC. Maybe the story of how your parents met.
Yeah. Well, my dad was an Army brat, and you know, his first language was like German. He was born in Cleveland, but he was, you know, a little kid in Heidelberg, Germany, playing the accordion. My grandfather was a U.S. Army colonel, and you know, they came back, and he went to high school in the DC area. Knew what he wanted to be when he grew up. You know, he was the editor of his school paper, and he.
So he came to DC as a result of your grandfather.
Right. They were at, you know, this base, that base, or whatever. And my grandfather actually had a stroke at a very young age, like 43.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, took him out of commission.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty sure that's why they weren't living on a base anymore. He wasn't like on active duty, and they were just living in the suburbs here. Mm-hmm. And he was going to
Virginia or Maryland?
Maryland. Okay. Walter Johnson High School. Walter Johnson was a Washington Senators baseball pitcher. Imagine.
Yeah, I know Walter Johnson. Yeah.
I don't know many high schools that are like named after, you know, maybe Babe Ruth has one, but maybe Ted Williams. I don't know, but so he went to high school and went to Ohio University, journalism school, and that's where my mom and dad met. She was from Toledo.
Okay.
And
only Toledo.
Yeah. So her parents, you know, my grandfather, her dad, you know, worked in a spark plug factory, you know, was in a union, and they had, you know, a couple Cadillacs.
There's a connection to spark plugs.
Yeah. You know, both of them had one sibling, you know, not big families at all.
Okay.
But yeah, they're more like, you know, Toledo's a suburb of Detroit. So it's sort of that sphere. When I think when a lot of people think of Ohio, you know, I've never really been to the big cities. And Ohio University is not Ohio State University. Like, there's no.
I was going to say, is Ohio University in Toledo?
No, it's in sort of like the Appalachian part of. It's beautiful. My parents will be like, yeah, we never need to go, but it's beautiful. Right. You know, it's a little tiny liberal college town in, you know, essentially that sort of Appalachian Rust Belt sort of corridor. But definitely southeast rather than like the northwest corner where Toledo is, and, you know, Detroit. So
got it.
So they met almost halfway. You know, it's like all the way across that state, and to get there from here, you know, it's probably about that, not too much longer of a drive. So, you know, they met there, and they went right to it. Like they skipped graduation and like got married in like probably on the way to DC, like at like Breezewood or something, which is like, you know, Matt, you know, Breezewood, it's like the biggest truck stop interchange thing, you know, like this wasn't some big wedding. And
was your mom going to Ohio University as well?
Yeah. And she was a journalist too. So she, I think I don't know if she majored in that. So she and my dad hightailed it to DC, and you know, my dad had worked here for a summer, but he got a job with the Washington Post as a reporter.
Oh shit! Right out of college.
Right out of college. This is not, you know, but you know, he should have, because he was the editor of a reputable, you know, they have a good program there at Ohio University. Good job, Dad. And so he you know, Ben Bradley hired him.
I was just gonna say, Woodward and Bernstein were probably still there, right?
Well, they were just they were just getting they were just getting there. Yeah.
Oh, is this the
They,
70s then, or
this was, so they graduated high school in 67, so 68, 69, 70, 71. So this is like
70?
May
Oh
1978.
shit! This is right when,
Um,
yeah, the
right.
post.
You know, like he was a Washington Post investigative reporter for 10 years during the
Catherine Graham
70s.
and all that.
Yeah, but you know, he was from Ohio University. And
Yeah.
I you know, in looking back as I examine my family history, which I've been doing a lot recently, I've had 2 years to sort of chill. I've been reflecting more as I spend more time here and as the parents get older.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I really see that era as, you know, my dad blasting off right out of school, which is something that is kind of amazing. You know, definitely not what your average person's doing. And he, you know, came from, I would say, a relatively humble background. You know,
Hmm.
Bob Woodward went to Yale.
Right.
Bob Woodward was in a secret society at Yale. Bob
Right. Right.
Woodward worked for Navy intelligence.
Right.
Bob Woodward was an attaché for generals who were going in and out of the White House and the Pentagon.
Hmm.
Um, Bob Woodward got a job at the Washington Post because of all that.
Hmm.
Um,
Connections.
I think Bob Woodward got fed the story because of
Mm.
all of that.
Right.
I tried to, you know, my dad was with one of his journalist buddies in SF the other day, and he goes, the other guy goes, Chris Barnett, he's great. You should have him on your story, on your pod here. He is been living in SF for like a long time and does a lot of local journalism and particularly saloons and stuff like that. So we got to get him to Jillian's place. Anyways, they're like, yeah, man, can you believe Bob Woodward's still cranking it out? You know, he has a new book out. I said, guys, that's not your. Yes, of course you can believe that guy has been hooked up since 1960 something, so he has access, and he's a mouthpiece for. He's a stenographer for power. You know,
Right.
give yourself some credit, guys. Like you don't wonder how he's doing it. You know, you're not part of that
Hmm.
club. And they were
Hmm.
like, oh, we'd rather lionize that guy than
Hmm.
actually do that. So
Hmm.
I am at a little bit of a crossroads, or a little bit of a, for the first time in my life, sort of coming to a different worldview than my dad's.
Hmm.
Even though my dad, I love him, respect the hell out of him. Um, his um, his experiences back then, I think, are like a lot of, you know, that generations where they they went through it and they have a picture of it in their mind. And if you try to go back and go through it in a different way, it's really hard.
Yeah. So, what kind
So
of journalism was your dad doing when he got hired at the Post?
political gossip and scandal.
Oh.
So he was, you know, he wrote, um, he got pretty damn close to a Pulitzer. I think he was runner
Oh.
up, wrote a book, um, couple books. I mean, one was a great title. I think it might be on the shelf here. Um, what was it? Public Trust to Private Lust. You know, a
Yes.
congressman from Ohio who was, um, you know, busted for paying a woman to be a secretary, and she gets up on the
Oh.
stand and she goes, I don't even know how to type.
Oh God.
You know, she's like 21 and he's like 50 something and he's married.
Wow.
So, you know, he did a lot of that kind of stuff.
What's your dad's
And
name, Alex?
Rudy Maxa.
Rudy Maxa. Okay.
Rudy Maxa. Yeah, a couple books. He was sent to, everyone's pretty much favorite story is that when Larry Flint published, you know, topless pictures of Jackie O and Hustler, his editor was like, "You're from Ohio, right?" I mean, I think Larry was in Kentucky, but the editor was like, "You're from Kentucky, right?" My dad's like, "Oh yeah, go cover this guy. He sounds pretty interesting." So I became like best friends with Larry Flynn.
Okay.
And so Uncle Larry and Althea would, you know, come to our house and like stay at our place when he was going to the Supreme Court to raise hell.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There were some glory days there, and I have that Instagram post from when Larry died last year that I'm trying to follow up with a bust that's going to be very, very dedicated to him.
Awesome. Is your dad in the
So
movie? People
he's
versus.
not in the movie, which is a good thing. I think overall, like it's not like Larry didn't like the movie or we don't like the movie or anything like that. It's just like, I'm glad that didn't happen to our family in any way, shape, or
Yeah.
form. My sister's 7 years older, and she was much more aware of this era. And when that movie came out, she was like, oh, are we, but yeah, I think, yeah, I don't know. It's like, yeah. So, I mean, they were real tight till the end.
Mm-hmm.
And I did
Like
watch.
your dad would consider Larry Flynn a friend.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean, he would go and stay with him in LA when he would go to LA until recently it became a little disruptive when my dad was trying to like work and Larry is having his buddies over to play blackjack, and the Palm shows up with a truck full of steak and lobsters, and there's guys outside with submachine guns guarding the place to make sure that, my dad's like, I'm just trying to get work done.
Right.
And Larry wants to fly to Vegas, and so yeah, my dad was a really big backgammon player.
Okay.
And so that's what in the 70s he was doing a lot of side work from his Washington Post gig, hosting radio shows. He would cover for like John McLaughlin had like a massive radio show, but then he went to TV and he had all these guys come onto his show, like 5 dudes, the McLaughlin group. That freed up like 5 hours of radio time on a Saturday. And they called my dad. They're like, can you just fill this prime time? And his first show was Christmas Day, I think, one year in the 70s. And he just opened up the call lines and just had, some crazy people calling in. I mean, Jay Leno would call, comedians would just call in, celebrities would call in, they'd be coming through town. There was no internet back then. How do they get exposure?
Right.
So that kind of thing was pretty, he was busy and still found time to, do pretty well on the side at a game that I forgot how he learned it, but
I love it.
It wasn't my mom's favorite thing in the world, but she couldn't really complain too much because, they could buy a new color TV. And my mom was doing, whatever she could. She shows up and she wants to write feature stories, and she got a job at the Washington Star, which is now defunct, but there were 3 big papers: the Post, the Star, and the Times.
Mm-hmm.
The Times being the Washington Times. And so they said, okay, you want to write features? Go write about sports. And she goes, well, I don't know anything about sports, but I'll do it. She was interviewing everybody in the 70s. John Madden just died the other day. She interviewed John Madden. She flew out to Raiders training camp in like Santa Rosa right after they won the Super Bowl. And she sits down and she goes, Coach, there's just nobody here. Like, where is everybody? And he's like, well, what do you mean? She's like, well, in DC, getting an interview with the coach, you gotta, elbow your way in. Anytime he's giving a press conference, which you just did here at training camp, there's 50 people around, and they cover the coach of the Washington Redskins like he's the president.
Right.
And John Madden looks at her and says, yeah, it's totally different out here. We take it really seriously. We have a very intense owner, Al Davis.
Yeah.
But the only message is the game.
Oh.
And so
different culture completely.
Yeah, very different culture.
Yeah. And what is your mom's name?
My parents divorced in the early 80s.
Okay.
So she was Kathleen Maxa, Maxa too. And that was, something she was doing up until, the early mid 80s. The sports thing, I think, was kind of over by the late 70s. She finally established herself so she could write other features. She wrote a bestseller called the Prize Pulitzer, which was about Roxanne Pulitzer. Roxanne Pulitzer married into the famous Pulitzer family in West Palm Beach, and there was a massive tabloid divorce in the early 80s that captivated the nation. And I remember reading like Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas in high school or something, and at the beginning of that copy of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas was a couple Hunter S. Thompson magazine pieces, and one of them was like how he flew down for the trial and was like doing a bunch of cocaine and driving around like out of his mind in a convertible, like, and like tangentially discussing the assignment that he was down there to do.
Sure.
But and that gave me a sense of the gravity of it because I didn't understand it. My sister read the book that came out, I think in like 88-7, but it was, you know, she wrote it was like Roxanne Pulitzer with Kathleen Maxa. And I think that they both like girled out over the fact that they were both divorced, you know, and had a story to tell. Right. So it was a big deal, but I wasn't conscious of it. And you know, she's not like proud of it because it's just such a sleazy like look, you know, she doesn't walk, we don't walk around, there's no like gold records but books framed in our house, like nobody's telling war stories from back in the day, like it's right, it just happened. So
so you came around in
83. Yeah, I was born in
83. And then did you grow up between your mom and dad's houses, or like what?
Yeah, you know, I was,
or were they how long were they together after you were?
So I don't remember them being together. So by the time I kind of came to, there was a moment where I did remember, like they had a whole other life before me. Like my godparents and all that was, you know, my sister was born in 76. And so between 76 and 85, you know, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And yeah, the neighborhood they lived in was, you know, a lot of was you know, bustling with like-minded people and journalists. And my godparents, which are one of them is a pretty interesting case. Were part of a group that weren't around by the time the 90s. By the time I was like a teenager fighting with my mom about how I was spending my time with who, I was like, you know, what happened to all your friends?
Right.
You know, what happened to like your scene? Like, how come I seem like I've spent, you know, you don't have any friend, you know, which wasn't true, but like, you know, they aged out of that world. And so by the time I was like 6, my stepdad had come into my life, and his name is Arthur, and it's like I have 3 parents. You know, my sister feels the same way, even though she was, you know, older. But for me, it was like he was there, you know, from the beginning.
Right.
And my everybody gets along great. You know, my stepdad and my dad have always gotten along really well. Like, you know, arguably better than anybody gets along with each other otherwise in marriages in our family. You know, it's like they're famously buddies when it comes to everybody managing all of this. So
yeah,
I would split time. And they're very different, so maybe it makes it easier. But I would do, you know, all week at my mom's and every other weekend at my dad's. Divorced dad kids dinner during the week. He'd come to all my games.
Awesome.
And it, you know, they do their parent teacher conferences together. I'm just like really lucky, really spoiled, really shielded from all that. I take credit as a child from a broken home, but I really didn't earn those stripes. It's stolen valor. I didn't see the fighting and the, you know.
Did having a sister 7 years older help with that, you think? Or like, what was your relationship with her?
Well, I mean, hey, it gets better. She doesn't resent the hell out of me for, you know, basically becoming my mom's singular focus when she sort of retired. You know, my parents were both working, going through a divorce. My sister's growing up. My dad's out of the house. Right. Suddenly, you know, she gets a hand-me-down car when she's 16, you know, the Ford Escort, you know, like the hood 84 Ford Escort, from my dad's girlfriend, longtime girlfriend, you know, the hood pops open when you're driving down the road. I got a brand new car when I was 16, or the family day that I had access to. Yeah. You know, I'm glad she does. I'm so grateful that, you know, she's a wonderful, gracious person who understands.
Never resented. Never resented.
Yeah. So
awesome. That's a big person.
Yeah, I know. She's the best. I think she really is the glue that keeps everything together. She's got 2 little kids. Or not little, 11 and 12, or 11 and 13, that keep her pretty busy with her husband. So I know she doesn't feel like she's totally involved with home life in DC and all that, but without her, I get a lot of strength from her, you know.
Would you say you and her, when you were growing up, were you close?
No, because of the age gap.
Yeah, that's a big one.
But I wanted to be close. You know, she was nurturing until I became annoying, I'm sure. But I always looked up to her, which is why I never, you know, once you're getting teased and picked on or bothered and you swear as soon as you get, you know, your aunt is whispering in your ear that don't worry, when you're bigger, you're going to be able to beat her up. You know, I didn't have the guts to pull the trigger when I finally had the chance. You know, I never pushed that. I never got older and did anything besides want to just be her personal slave, you know?
Okay.
When she came home from college, you know, everyone says, oh, you know, my dad was telling me the other day, she'd be sitting there watching TV and she'd leave something on the 3rd floor of the house and she'd ask me to run up and get it. And I'd run up there and get it.
Like,
you know, so
boom.
I want to be part of the club. You know, I want to be part of the team.
Got
Her friends
it.
are cool.
Yeah.
You know, her world was cool, her style, everything. And then she promptly went to college in '94, went in New York City, and like not never, but like was not coming home. You know,
That was it. Right. She needed to cut it and just be gone.
Yeah, she had to get the hell out of the house, and
she had to become her own person, right?
She had to become her own person. You know, moms and teenage daughters can be tough. You know, I think that I do remember, instead of it going through a divorce, I just went through them fighting, which was a little bit tough. And I'm glad that she was able to get that separation. Also, my dad, you know, wasn't far away with his apartment, which had plenty of room for us. If, you know, we could go whenever we wanted, you know, so she had that outlet. But yeah, she became a New Yorker, like just didn't look back,
cool.
And was there for like 14 years. So, you know.
So what kinds of things, you had mentioned earlier, you were into lacrosse and sports. What kinds of things, I want you to talk about that, but what other kinds of things were you into as, like, let's say a teenage kid growing up in the DC
Oh, my
suburbs?
first word was legitimately bus.
Okay.
So that is a nice bit of lore.
Yep.
Of Gillibus lore. And yeah, I was a pretty typical little boy from the standpoint of, like, I was a Lego maniac.
Yes.
You know, loved you know, Transformers and stuff. But yeah, I started playing soccer like right away. All my friends were on the soccer team. My dad's friend was the coach. I went to my sister and I both went to this really weird, this is a very DC thing. Our elementary school was in this beautiful mansion in the city with this expansive playground that was just a dream come true. And it was called NCRC. And it was like every other little preschool you can imagine, with all the trappings, except NCRC stands for National Child Research Center.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it sounds like
wow.
some kind of, it's sort of like, it's, you know, and you know, they're observing you through two-way, or is it one-way glass?
I was gonna say, it sounds like the kids show up for school and they plug them into things.
Yeah, it sounds like the Resident Evil house mansion with the giant lab underneath it. It's pretty. It seems like some kind of, you know, MK Ultra adjacent operation here for, you know, upwardly mobile, striving boomers who've moved to town and want to put their kids on the pathway to, you know, taking over the world. Because all my friends' parents, everybody that we grew up with moved here. Nobody was like, oh, I'm from DC, you know, fifth generation, or even second. Like, everyone moves here, and it's a rat race. In NCRC, getting your child into NCRC, maybe it's not getting him in, it's just making sure that you know about it and putting him there. And going through that was sort of like the first step in optimizing, you know, everything so that we're going to succeed. And my sister went first, and she used to tease me. She's like, well, you know, I saw your report cards, and you know, they analyzed your handwriting, and they said you're going to be a serial killer. And so my first bout with school was in this really weird place that I loved, but, you know, maybe was a psyop. So, and it still exists today. It's still there. It's still there. And I think now it's not as, I mean, now it's like, well, of course you'd want your kid to go to, like, you don't just want to go to daycare. You need to go, like, learn how to be a CEO. or whatever. We need to figure out exactly what your strengths are when you're 3 or 4 so that we can focus, specialize on that.
Yeah.
So that was step one in DC. And Sarah, my older sister, also went through that as well. So by the time I'm, I still have best buddies. I'm going to go see my friend later who is part of the program. I still have a lot of my friends. My relationship to DC is really based on not just my parents, but my friends, my group of friends that even if I met them in middle school or high school, they joined a group that was together since nursery school. So that separates me from a lot of people, but also my sister. She doesn't have, that history, that she doesn't still have those relationships with her friends. So, call it arrested development, or whatever, but it's one of the things that does I don't have an entirely black, crusty heart when it comes to DC. I have a lot of fond memories, and growing up with this group of guys was what allowed me to ignore all the parents and all the noise.
Right.
And sports too. Sports was a great way to do that, where everybody's angling and striving and networking behind the scenes, and you're a kid, you don't know how important people's parents can be and who they are and all their resumes and all the things that dictate your access and opportunities in life. But when you're out there playing sports, it's just you against the other guys and girls with the ball, and you can walk the walk. So I really enjoyed that. It made me friends. It strengthened relationships, and it made it a lot easier being a new kid if you're, going from one school to the other, so that's one of the few things that I'm like, okay, that was just me. My parents were great at putting me in that. My mom was phenomenal at the former sports writer, right. I could talk about it after the game, even though I was pissed off with her. She wasn't going to ask me, she wasn't going to use the wrong term and say some annoying milquetoast thing that was going to piss me off. she can do some decent analysis.
She knew what she's talking about.
Yeah, it was it was like having a little league dad. It was like having a Pee-wee soccer mom who was willing to sort of be in your corner. It was nice. Cool. My dad was cool as hell when it came to taking me to everything and cheering and all that, but there's only room for one of those people in the family who's sort of really into the sports. I think more than that is just way too much.
Yeah, because it's a lot.
You got to have some balance. He was sort of teaching me other things, right? This is, he's single essentially. I mean, he had a lot of long-term relationships after my mom. He's a serial monogamist. He wasn't trying to not be in a relationship, but I was out with the adults when I was with him, right? I'm at a dinner, I'm schmoozing, I'm meeting people who I don't really understand why I should care, but I'm there to impress. I want to impress my dad. I'm hanging with my dad. I'm at the adults. I'm at the adults table. And by the time the 90s rolled around, he got out of the let's call it the gossip and scandal business. So he did 10 years at the Washington Post, 10 years at Washingtonian Magazine as an editor. He was a bureau chief of Spy Magazine, which I don't know a lot of people remember, but it was
I remember Spy. Yeah.
Donald Trump does not like Spy Magazine.
Right.
But he shifted out of that. I guess it was Graydon Carter too. He shifted out of that and started doing travel stuff. It's I'm a travel journalist now. I do radio, TV. I'm on NPR, I'm on Marketplace regularly. I'm traveling. I'm taking your sister to Egypt. We're going to Morocco. We're going to France. We're going to wherever. And then it was my turn to go with him. My turn to see the world. I was 11, 12, and we're going to Hong Kong and Thailand.
Wow.
And
sorry, how old?
I was 11. I hadn't turned 12. It was June of 95.
Well, I was wondering where this fit in with your first trip to San Francisco, which I'd love to hear about.
Right. So we just went over that. We just skipped past that. So that was dad taking the kids for a 2-week trip to look at these schools for my sister. And so I was the third wheel.
That was Alex Maxa. On the next episode of Storied San Francisco, Alex continues his life story for us. Part 2 drops Thursday wherever you listen to podcasts. And now, here's a quick word from the folks at Right Nowish.
Hey, my name is Pendarvis Harshaw, and I'm the host of Right Nowish. It's an arts and culture podcast about the Bay Area. Every week, I talk to the cornerstones and the creatives in our community.
The real message is that, like, we can take care of ourselves. Like, we got us.
So it really represents, like, Black and brown people moving into this digital, futuristic, technological space.
We're the land of the hustlers, so we're going to survive it.
Check out the Right Nowish podcast. We'd love to keep you in the mix.
Music for the podcast was produced, performed, and curated by Otis McDonald. Original photography is by Michelle Kilfeather. Aaron Lim of Bitch Talk Podcast is our contributing producer. And the show is produced and hosted by me, Jeff Hunt. Now in our 4th season, we have more than 180 episodes available on our website, storiedsf.com, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If you can, please rate and review the show so we can reach even more folks. We love email, and we'd love to hear from you. Drop us a line at storiedsf@gmail.com. Thanks for listening. Stay strong, stay healthy, and we'll see you next time on Storied San Francisco.
This podcast is a proud member of the BFF.FM podcast network. Learn more at podcast.bff.fm.
BFF.FM, best frequencies forever.